From December 1963 until his death in 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was the target of an intensive campaign by the Federal Bureau of Investigation to neutralize him as an effective civil rights leader. In the words of the man in charge of the FBI's war against Dr. King, quote, "No holds were barred. We have used similar techniques against Soviet agents. The same methods were brought home against any organization against which we were targeted. We did not differentiate. This is a rough, tough business." End quote. The FBI collected information about Dr. King's plans and activities through an extensive surveillance program, employing nearly every intelligence-gathering technique at the Bureau's disposal. Wiretaps, which were initially approved by Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, were maintained on Dr. King's home telephone from October 1963 until mid-1965. The SCLC headquarters telephones were covered by wiretaps for an even longer period. Phones in the homes and offices of some of Dr. King's close advisors were also wiretapped. The FBI has acknowledged 16 occasions on which microphones were hidden in Dr. King's hotel and motel rooms in an attempt to obtain information about the private activities of King and his advisors for use to completely discredit them. FBI informants in the civil rights movement and reports from field offices kept the Bureau's headquarters informed of developments in the civil rights field. The FBI's presence was so intrusive that one major figure in the civil rights movement testified that his colleagues referred to themselves as members of the FBI's Golden Record Club. The FBI's formal program to discredit Dr. King with government officials began with the distribution of a monograph which the FBI realized could be regarded as a personal attack on Martin Luther King, and which was subsequently described by a Justice Department official as a personal diatribe, a personal attack without evidentiary support. Congressional leaders were warned off the record about alleged dangers posed by Reverend King. The FBI responded to Dr. King's receipt of the Nobel Peace Prize by attempting to undermine his reception by foreign heads of state and American ambassadors in the countries that he planned to visit. When Dr. King returned to the United States, steps were taken to reduce support for a huge banquet and a special day that were being planned in his honor. The FBI's program to destroy Dr. King as the leader of the civil rights movement entailed attempts to discredit him with churches, universities, and the press. Steps were taken to attempt to convince the National Council of Churches, the Baptist World Alliance, and leading Protestant ministers to halt financial support of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, and to persuade them that, quote, "Negro leaders should completely isolate King and remove him from the role he is now occupying in civil rights activities," end quote. When the FBI learned that Dr. King intended to visit the Pope, an agent was dispatched to persuade Francis Cardinal Spellman to warn the Pope about the likely embarrassment that may result to the Pope should he grant King an audience. The FBI sought to influence universities to withhold honorary degrees from Dr. King. Attempts were made to friendly news sources that would print unfavorable articles. The FBI offered to play for reporters tape recordings allegedly made from microphone surveillance of Dr. King's hotel rooms. The FBI mailed Dr. King a tape recording made from its microphone coverage. According to the chief of the FBI's Domestic Intelligence Division, the tape was intended to precipitate a separation between Dr. King and his wife in the belief that the separation would reduce Dr. King's stature. The tape recording was accompanied by a note which Dr. King and his advisors interpreted as a threat to release the tape recording unless Dr. King committed suicide. The FBI also made preparations to promote someone, quote, "to assume the role of leadership of the Negro people when King has been completely discredited," end quote.